Hi, I'm Ryan, and welcome to my coding bootcamp journey. In this series, I will share my experiences as I learn to code through Flatiron School's web development program. If you do know anyone that would enjoy this, please send them to the link at the bottom of your screen. All right. So, what is new this week? This week I had my project review. I posted a walkthrough of my of what I did last week. So I will post a link to that if you want to check that out. And this week we got started on SQL or SQL. Specifically SQLite. There's differences whether you're using MySQL, SQLite, Postgres, but I'm not going to get into that. But I had this going in. I had this idea that it was like this huge, complicated, nebulous thing, and so far I've found the syntax just barely more complicated than Ruby. So it was relatively easy to pick up as far as its structure and how to run queries and that kind of thing. And struggles. Yeah, I certainly had my share. First one was reliable internet at the co-working space I was at. I'm not going to mention names, but it was dropping my connection was getting dropped for a good 25 30 minutes, like about two or three times a day, and it was being masked at times by my less than productive use of my time management. I would work for an hour, then I would I close the lid and take a 20 to 25 minute break, and I'd work for an hour or so, but probably closer to 15 or 15 to 20. And anyway, and so doing that would mask it, but around the time when I mentioned pendulums, I forget which about how long it was, like 1 maybe 2 weeks before I started my project, and yeah, it was probably the week before. Now that I think of it, and so doing that, but 1 hour on, 15 to 20 minutes off, it was causing me to be less productive. Once I actually got started in my project, I noticed it more and more. And prior to that, it would happen occasionally, sometimes during like a study group, or it happened once, when I was having a one-on-one with one of my coaches, and so it really got in the way. And after a number of tickets filed, I was like, okay, I had to look elsewhere, because I going through this program, I don't have I don't have the time nor the attention capital to spare on troubleshooting unreliable internet. Especially when I live in a major metropolitan area. There's a lot of places, a lot of places I can go that are not my home, that where I can depend on the internet. So yeah, I moved on from that. More on that later. And the other struggle was the first test during the code review. So after I checked that everything worked and I submitted it, then in the initial README I had included instructions to add it as a gem, and a Ruby gem it's a library that you can use in your projects, like no Kogiri, which which is what I used in mine, is a Ruby gem. So it's a library that scrapes website with code that scrapes websites. So after I submitted everything, I went through the process of building a gem, which is a single command in Bash, and I was having trouble pushing it to Ruby gem. So I'm just like, all right, whatever, and I didn't think of it. And then when I ran my program during the code review, I saw a whole bunch of errors. I'm like, that's not supposed to happen. So I ran bundle install just to make sure that all the gems were loaded and everything, which I don't know what, but anyway. And I saw a very error that I'd never seen was the gem contains itself. I'm like, the heck, I've never seen this. So we did some googling and found a question on Stack Overflow that meant after we changed we commented out a number of lines in the gem spec and saved it and tried again, and didn't work. We I did a web search and found a question on Stack Overflow that was exactly like ours. So one of the answers worked for the person that posted it. So I'm like, hey, let's try this. Oh, hey, now the thing works. So. So I ran through it, and he mentioned that the last part of the code review is, we go through and refactor some, but he's like, debugging the error we had at the beginning was more difficult than anything I would have asked you to refactor. So we're good. so yeah, those were my struggles this week. And for victories, besides getting good marks on my code review, victory for me is finding SQLite Studio, which is a graphical browser for specifically SQLite, and that really helped in figuring out what information the queries were actually pulling. And it's more user friendly when you screw up on a query, like either syntax error or you use a clause incorrectly, because some of them you can't use with aggregator functions, and so it was a lot cleaner than running it through Bash. And that really helped work through some of the labs that I was working with, and someone in my cohort had posted in Slack, hey, anybody working on this lab, which is the lab that I just finished? And he's like, yeah, this first method is really driving me nuts. And so I, helped, gave him some pointers on it. Then I mentioned SQLite Studio, that it really short circuited a lot of the stuff, that because it just having a graphical interface that where you just type in the query, click on the play button, which is run execute query, and it right below it pops the table of the values you entered in your query. And so I gave him the link to it, and I will definitely post a link to that in the description below as well. And that was my big victory this week. And what am I looking forward to? Getting settled in at the new co-working space. It's a local operation, so it's much smaller. in the last one, it was a co-working space in that different entities all worked at the same location. But because it was, I'm not sure I would use packed, but it was definitely being used. There was I didn't get the impression that there was a lot of vacant space. So there, in the time I was there, like all the conversations and interactions and everything, I just got the sense that they were, it was like between people that were already working with each other, like they were in the company and whatnot. And in the few out, I took a tour of this new of this smaller operation, and just I liked the vibe there much better. It was definitely quieter. There wasn't as much of a din of like just background people just talking, and there were more like cross conversations happening. Like, two people would be having a conversation, and two other people would be having a conversation, and they would integrate each other's conversations into it, or two people were having a conversation, one person would chip in, and then they'd engage with a third person. And so I didn't see any of that at the one with unreliable internet. So and plus the smaller one's closer. It was I'd say one way to the one that with unreliable connection, that the commute was like 1 hour one way, whereas this, and I had to, I was using one bus line and sometimes two light rail lines, so I was making like two transfers one way. And with this new one, it's one bus line, and it's like from door to door. I'd say it's like 20 minutes. So it's definitely closer. It's a smaller community that I think is a bit more welcoming to someone with my introverted personality. So yeah, I definitely think this is going to be a better fit. I think I'm going to get if I do have any issues that knock on wood, that if there are any issues, I feel like I'm going to get a more hands-on approach. Because so yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. So that's all I have this week. I do thank you for watching. If you want to stay up to date, please like and subscribe. Feel free to check out the rest of this series. And if you do have any comments or questions, please post them below. And I'll see you in the next chapter.